Hello and welcome to the short Vort on Parshas Eikev. In this week's Parsha, in Perek Ches, Pasuk Yud, we have the Achalta V'Tzavata, the blessing of grace after meals. I decided after 13 years to ask for a little bit of help from AI through artificial intelligence, and I asked ChatGPT, what does the Talmud say about Birkat HaMazon? And the short response I got will lead us into this week's topic, which is women and Zimun. Birkat HaMazon, says AI, is the series of 4 blessings recited after a meal in which one eats bread. It is the only blessing clearly commanded by the Torah itself, citing this week's Parsha and Pasuk, and not by the rabbis. The Talmud states that women are obligated to say Birkat HaMazon, and that accordingly, 3 women can constitute a Zimun and leave, citing Brachot Mem He Amud Beis. Brachot 45b. Later authorities such as Maimonides and the Mishnah Berurah held that women were exempt from leading Zimun on grounds that women are not generally sufficiently educated to know how. I find it interesting what came up in this short segment, but I'm going to use this topic of Echaltos Vat to lead to Zimun and discuss the topic of women, the truth about women and Zimun, which is a Jewish Action Fall 1999 report by Rabbi Ari Zivotofsky, PhD. Before I go into taking a synopsis out of what he wrote, I'm just going to point out, because I was interested, talked about women and their obligation, and says that women, pointed that women are not sufficiently educated to know how. So based on the Mishnah Berurah and Yeridea Kufsadi Taf, maybe I'll be able to get a printout or links down below in YouTube. But when it says that women Einam Mavinos, it says that Einam Mavinos Lashon HaKodesh, that women didn't know Hebrew so much, and therefore, since this was a foreign language, and it was also because Zimun was not a common thing, so that's one reason it says that women don't know. But I'll go into the Jewish Action segment, which talks about the misconception that 3 or more women forming a Zimun, a responsive introduction to grace after meals, especially in the presence of 1 or 2 men, is the product of late 20th century feminism and has no basis in traditional halacha. When such a Zimun is formed, the men present should leave. He says this is a myth. He says the fact is women participating in a meal in which there is a men's Zimun are obligated to participate. Also, if there's no male Zimun of 10 and there are 3 women, then women may form their own Zimun. The third point here is if there is no male Zimun at all, many authorities obligate the women to form a Zimun, meaning if they have 3 or more. It says the background on this is the Talmud records a Tanaic statement in Brachot 45b that women form a Zimun amongst themselves, and in Aruch 3a, it includes women in the statement that all are obligated in Zimun. In order to reconcile these statements with a seemingly contradictory one in Brachos 45a, the Amud before, that says women may not have a Zimun said over them, there are 3 approaches adopted by the commentators. The first one is by Tosfos, which views a woman's participation in any Zimun as optional. The Beit Yosef, the author of the Shulchan Aruch, as well as the Shulchan Aruch Harav, obligated women in Zimun when a men's Zimun exists, but they regard an independent women's Zimun as optional. And finally, the Rosh, Rokeach, and Gra Vilna Gaon not only obligate women when the Zimun of men exists, but obligate 3 women who ate together to form a women in Zimun. So if it's 3 women alone, then they have an obligation to make the Zimun. It's not just men. For time's sake, I'm going to have to skip a little bit. And he says, women's participation in Zimun is thus already recorded in the Talmud. There is no halachic opinion that prohibits women from forming a Zimun, and many opinions require it. In addition, if 3 or more women form a Zimun, there is no reason why 1 or 2 men who are present cannot remain and answer this Zimun. This is according to Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, as quoted by his nephew in Halichos Beisa. It's also found in Toras Hayoledes by Rav Yitzchak Zilberstein Shlita, the son-in-law of Rav Yashiv, as well as Dr. Moshe Rothschild. So there's other details, but that's the main point. Again, the summary of here is that Tosfos says women's participation in any Zimun is optional. The Beit Yosef says that there's an obligation in Zimun for women when there is a men Zimun, but the women doing their own Zimun is only optional. And the Rosh, Rokech, and Grad not only obligate women when a Zimun of men exists, but obligate 3 women who ate together to form a Zimun. I don't know about you, but this makes me hungry. Thank you. Have a wonderful week and a wonderful Shabbos.